Well, good evening. Thank you. I'm actually glad to be here. I don't often say that because there's usually a million other places I'd rather be when I'm doing political stuff. But the things we're talking about tonight are some of the things I'm most passionate about. I got started in politics back in 2008. I found out about this guy named Ron Paul, and I found out about him through this movie. It was a documentary called From Freedom to Fascism. How many of you have seen that movie? I highly recommend it. You can find it online. There's lots of people who got copies of it. It's a great documentary about the Federal Reserve and the income tax system we have in America. And I was in California at the time. That's where I was born and raised. My wife was born and raised here. We met at church there. And that's a whole separate, really cool story, but I don't have time to go into. And so the economy had just, like God had flipped a switch, shut off. I was doing my own thing, and it was gone. There was no more work. And so I had nothing to do but sit around and watch documentaries and do research about stuff and maybe try and find a job because I was self-employed. And I watched this documentary, and I looked at my friend. We were sitting there watching it. I said, it can't be this bad. It cannot. This is crazy. It cannot be this bad. And so I started doing more and more research and started really getting a little bit freaked out, realizing that it actually is this bad. And look, what have they done to my country? I grew up when USSR was still in power, and we thought they were the bad guys and we're the good guys. Let's get an eagle ripping up a Russian flag tattoo and Yahoo! You know, I'm an American. And then they fell, and then I guess we didn't have anything to identify with anymore, or what. But so I started looking into these things, started finding all this stuff out, started my own YouTube channel, making commentary videos and doing different things. Ended up moving here. And one of the people that wanted to hold a big Constitution Day Tea Party rally back in 2010, it was late 2009, early 2010, saw my video of me laying into my congressman, Tom Perriello, which we threw out of office about a year later. And I'm asking him a very simple question, and he's really starting to get on my nerves because I want to know where he thinks some of these things are constitutional. And he tells me, this is the attitude in Washington, it's pretty common, that, well, we as congressmen, we don't get to decide what's constitutional. The Supreme Court decides that. So I'm supposed to spend $1 to $10 million to fight a Supreme Court case if I can get them to hear my case? It's a ludicrous idea. So we had to get rid of him, and we did. And so we actually started an organization called the Lynchburg Tea Party. And one of the things on the side that we were doing was working to take over the Republican Party. We're not really necessarily take it over, just really get involved with it hands-on. And that's been very successful in the 5th District. I've been, cursed with being the chairman now in Campbell County on top of the Tea Party. So when I say I'd rather be somewhere else, most places, that's what I'm talking about. There's a million things I'd rather be doing. I'd much rather be spending time camping with my kids. I don't want to go like today. You know where I was today? I was going door to door for a candidate down in downtown Lynchburg. Because it needed to be done. It's the most frustrating part about being in things like this, that we can't get people off of their rear ends. There's a million excuses, and some of them genuinely are legitimate. If your kid's having a dance recital or whatever, you have to go to that. I get that. I understand. But watching the football game or the Golf Channel or American Idol is not a legitimate excuse. So I get a little frustrated when I hear that. And those are the things I'm going to talk about tonight. I call this the 5 boxes that hold the keys to liberty in America. We're talking about restoring liberty. That's what we're talking about tonight. And historically, this is actually from 1860. This goes back, and there was originally 4. We've shrunken it down to 3 that you'll probably recognize at least 3 of these. We've got the ballot box, the soap box, the jury box, that's the one most people forget about, and the ammo box. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those, but I believe that there's a 5th box. And that's the box that we took our Bibles and chucked them in as a country. We had a Christian nation. We had a nation that honored God. And we took these and we went, we don't need that anymore. We need to have our best life now. Every day is Friday, baby. Come on. And that isn't what it's about. There's a real famous quote, America is great because she is good, When she ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. And the founders had an understanding of that. They understood that the Constitution was for a moral people. Maybe I agree that all the founders were not Christians, but they had a concept of morality. And in a concept, you didn't rob your neighbor, you didn't steal his horses. You had a concept of what was right and what was wrong. So in America, we've got abortion and gay stuff and adultery on every single channel. If you've got TV and you're a believer, you need to shut that junk off. I mean, there is not a show that does not have pro-homosexual, pro-adultery content in it. There's not a show. We have a TV. We watch DVDs, so we can filter it a little bit more. So we'll watch shows about 2-3 years old. So I don't even know what's on TV now, but the stuff we see on DVDs, it's like, whoop, that's going back to Netflix. But when we have those things in America, those things are signs that God's restraining hand is actually not restraining us. He said, you want wickedness, you want adultery and all this stuff? Go ahead. You need to repent and turn back to me, but I'm not going to, hey, you want that, go right ahead. I was at church a couple weeks ago. I go to Calvary Chapel, and I've become really accustomed to verse-by-verse teaching, and if it's topical, I get thrown really off. I start daydreaming and things, and so he says, open your Bibles to Jeremiah. And so I start reading Jeremiah, and before I know it, he's done, and I've been with the highlighter doing this because all of these verses are jumping out at me, saying, this is your nation. This is America. This is the nation of Israel that the prophet is talking to. But God's nature doesn't change. He is who he is. And who he calls his children, he's speaking to us. So I'm going to read to you just the highlighted verses and tell me that this doesn't sound like our country. If you return, I will restore you, and you shall stand before me if you utter what is precious and not what is worthless. I will deliver you out of the hand of the wicked and redeem you from the grasp of the ruthless. They shall, and then now he's speaking of if they don't do that. They shall die of deadly diseases. They shall not be lamented, nor shall they be buried. They shall be as dung on the surface of the ground. They shall perish by the sword and by famine, and their dead bodies shall be food for the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. Both great and small shall die in this land. And when you tell this people these words, they will say to you, why has the Lord pronounced all this great evil against us? What is our iniquity? What sin have we committed against the Lord our God? And then you shall say to them, because your fathers have forsaken me, declares the Lord, and have gone after other gods, and have served and worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and not kept my law, and because you have done worse than your fathers, for behold, every one of you follows his stubborn, evil will, refusing to listen to me. Behold, I am sending for many fishers, declares the Lord, and they shall catch them, and afterward I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and every hill, and out of the clefts of the rocks, for my eyes are on all their ways. They are not hidden from me, nor is their iniquity concealed from my eyes. Our fathers have inherited nothing but lies, worthless things in which there is no profit. Therefore, behold, I will make them know this once. I will make them know my power and my might, and they shall know that my name is the Lord. Thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his strength. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. The heart is deceitfully wicked above all things, and desperately sick. Who can understand it? That's us. That's us. What has happened to our country? You know, one of the passions I had before I got involved in politics, and for some reason the door now just keeps slamming every time I try and do this, was evangelism, telling people about Jesus, telling people about salvation that is freely offered to them. And for whatever reason, God keeps opening these political doors, and I say, oh, okay. And I keep going through them. I would much rather be doing evangelism. I'd much rather stand in a street corner and tell people about Jesus than talk about all the political stuff I'm about to share with you. But this is the door that has been opened to me, so for now I'm walking through it. Now, when we talk about these different boxes, we've got the ballot boxes. Now, we've got Americans. I'm unhappy with my choices. Well, what have you done to make those choices? Where have you been in the process before the choice has been given to you? It's not really a choice. Let's see. Satan or one of his demons. I wonder which one I should pick. You know, you had the choice. You could have prevented either one of those, but you chose not to. Oh, but he's got an R next to his name. Oh, well, goody, goody. You know, so a lot of people complain about politics. I knock on doors, get petitions for Jamie Radke if you're in the 5th, and I get people complaining, and I just want to whap them with my clipboard. Because what are they complaining about? I haven't seen you at the local Republican meeting. Where have you been? You know, here I am trying to do something about it. What are you complaining about? So they complain about all these problems politically, but politics is more than just voting. That ballot box is the final step where we're going and we're doing this, or actually it's pressing a button now and hoping that actually counts for something, because there's no paper record. But that's a 2-hour talk right in and of itself. Politics is about your choice, about sending a representative of the people up to wherever they're representing you, whether it's local or state or federal. So I'm out today, and I was talking to people about, you know, changing the makeup of the city council in Lynchburg, handing these out. I don't want to do that. You know what? I'd rather do nothing than that. I'd rather sit at home and sleep, or nap, or mess around in the garden, or something other than that. But the hardest part about doing what I do now is getting people to do that. We've been putting the call out to get people to do door to door. And one other person besides myself shows up today. So if people like, I guess people like paying 11.5% tax when they eat out in Lynchburg, and they must like 3 times higher property taxes because, you know, they had a choice. So there's a lot that goes into that ballot box, and it isn't just your ballot. It's, you know, there's a lot that goes on. There's the soapbox. And people get up on their soapbox, and they used to actually have boxes that soap came in. That's where the term comes from. And you would stand on the soapbox, and it was free and cheap, easy podium, and you'd stand on it, and you'd give speeches like Patrick Henry gave, and others have given for years. And now a lot of people don't want to say anything. Oh, I don't know what people would think of me. They might think I'm not nice, or they might not like that political stuff, you know, because politics and religion doesn't mix. And they'd say whatever justification they need to say. Or they think that politics is, let's see, I'm on here, I'm on my little fancy computer doodad, and now I'm on Facebook, and I'm talking about NDAA. Obama's going to declare martial law. You know, they think that's being on your soapbox. You know what I call that? I call that keyboard patriotism. Because it does nothing. In fact, I think it does that's what, in fact, actually, I've been making fun of that whole concept for years, because the frustrating part about that is these things that we're talking about tonight should infuriate you. They should make you so mad that you're punching the roof or doing whatever makes you crazy or white-knuckling it all the way home. These should make you mad. But it doesn't make you mad, because there's so many people posting all this stuff, and it drains that energy out of you. It's a release. It's not productive. It doesn't do anything. And so my big thing is I really want people to get into the game. Come on, get off the bench, get in the game. And they're not getting into the game because they're on Facebook and they're on Twitter and they're on all these places, and they're like talking about the moon and the asteroids coming to destroy the earth or whatever. You know, I mean, come on, get out there and do something. I could find you 5 or 6 races that you could work in across the state right now. In fact, there's several people in here that are working in those races, and I'll plug you in right now if you're looking for a place to plug in. So I don't want to hear any more about, this, that, or the other. But I do know a lot of people that say nothing. And every once in a while, they'll say something. And then they feel bad about saying it, so they don't say anything else. But I'm usually the one people ask me, hey, who should I vote for on Election Day? Why don't you know that already? But I'll tell them gladly. We have the jury box. Now this one is huge, and it's really it's under-considered. You know, back when the Fugitive Slave Act and different things, and people were being tried and put into courts, and the way that these bad laws were nullified was the jury. People would get hauled into the court, and the jury would say, not guilty. What are you going to do about it? The judge couldn't do anything about it. Now what the judges like to do is say, you can listen to this, and you can consider that, and you can talk about this, and you can think about that, but you can't think about this. And wait, no. I, the juror, am the final arbiter of justice for this man. I'm not going to let you tell me what I can and can't consider, especially if it exonerates him. In fact, one of the things that we, as a gun owner, and if you're wondering, I always carry. If it's not a felony, I'm carrying. But if one of the things we talk about, and that is the Miranda disclaimer says anything you say can and will be used against you. So you have no incentive to talk to the police, just so you know. Don't ever say it. Just say, I thought he was going to kill me, and I'm going to pass out, send me to the hospital, whatever. Make up something, but just don't talk to the cops, because you have no reason. It will not help you. They will write down, transcribe everything you said that was bad for you and erase everything else, and they're perfectly within their rights to do so. Now I'm going to talk about the one that's always so controversial. The ammo box. The cartridge box, the ammo box. Oh, now he's a fanatical, crazy rebel guy because he's talking about guns and stuff. But this one is a problem. Genuinely, I often am thinking about where is the line, and where is the point where it's okay for us to, shoot them. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. I was listening to the radio the other day, and it was the stupidest thing I was hearing, and I looked at my wife and I said, we are going to look back in 20 years and say, we should have shot him in the face. I don't know when and if that's okay, but that's what we're going to say. That's what the Germans were saying about Hitler. Oh my gosh, we should have shot that guy in the face. But they didn't do it, and then look what happened. And that's the thing. I don't know as a Christian, where is that line? Where is it okay if the Constitution is a contract we have with our government and they break it, and the founders' view was they broke it, and a tax on tea was the big deal? I think about that often. But beyond that, we have something in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Was it the intent of the founders that a rabble with guns, unorganized, basically like a bunch of us, could secure liberty, could defend freedom? It was not their intent. At the time this nation was founded, there was organization at every level of a community. You had a people in the local militia. You could be called up and you could come and go. You didn't want to be part of the militia anymore? See ya, I quit. But there was order. The founders were gentlemen. They were not men that wanted a bunch of chaos in their society. And they believed that you had to have at every level people involved with a well-regulated militia. Second Amendment is not about hunting. It's about defending my life and my liberty. That's what it's about. And that I think the NRA is effective, but I get irritated with the NRA's whole sportsman drive. That's not what the Second Amendment's about. And but the big thing is that we can't even talk about militias anymore. Oh, you're just a crazy gun nut. Unless you're the Black Panthers, then you can talk about it all day long and nobody cares. So what is the solution there? There is a solution. If you look at Virginia's law, we could all of us be the new Madison Heights militia. It's in the Virginia Constitution. We could do it. Just one problem. There's nothing in the statute, in the law, that defines how you call that militia up to serve. So let's say there's a tornado destroys half of Madison Heights, and we want to come in armed and ready to go with communications and everything we need to help our local community. There's nothing in the statute that gives you the ability to do that. We could do it, but we would just be a bunch of people that happen to be armed doing it. There is a structure that it's like they've put a firewall up to prevent us from doing it. So if we really want to do this, we want to exercise this, and to me, I think it's the perfect solution. Remember firearms? How many remember firearms freedom the Firearms Freedom Bill that was about 3 years ago in Virginia, and it just kind of petered out, and they focused on other things. It wouldn't have mattered, because who's going to spend $1 million building a factory to make guns to sell to Virginians only, when they know the feds are going to come burn the place to the ground as soon as they start manufacturing the guns? Who's going to defend it? Well, if you had the militia in Virginia, the militia might have second thoughts about you coming in as the federal government, burning down the factory that supplies them with their arms. Similar to the gold and silver money concept that we all know the dollar's falling apart. I have a $100 trillion Zimbabwe bill at home. I mean, yeah, and that's 10 years. They went from a 10-to-1 exchange rate to that 10 years ago to a $100 trillion bill that wouldn't buy you a slice of bread. So we want to have, let's say, gold and silver money. What are you going to do when the feds come in and they take it all? Oh, hey, you can't do that. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm talking practical solutions. None of this, let's hold signs and have rallies and go up to D.C., which is effective if all you want to do is send a message. But if you want actionable things, the government is our slave. We are its master. And it's time that we provide a framework. And we can't call it militia. You'd have to call it something else. Safety committee, or I don't know what. But it needs to have the law behind it. It needs to have the force of law. Now, what have we got in Virginia that's very effective at doing things politically? We've got the Tea Party. We've got a lot of local Republican parties now. We've got numerous delegates and senators, and Cuccinelli's look like he's running for governor. That would be awesome. And so we've got the potential over the next 2-3 years to actually put this in legislation, where we could be authorized by the state to authorize the counties to form these safety committees, where we could do this here and protect our own communities. And each community would be different. The communities along the coast with hurricane response would be way different than what do we have, earthquakes every 100 years here? I mean, stuff like that. So, but the concept is that all of these things have to work together. And the ammo box, the bullet box, the jury box, the soap box, but most importantly, the box that the Americans have thrown their Bible in, have turned their back on God. That's got to change. Because apart from that, all this other stuff's academic. These are all mechanical things that are necessary, but all we're doing right now is preventing the inevitable. What do we see coming? I mean, honestly, I honestly thought this was all going to come falling apart back in 2008. I moved here, and I think the Dow was at like 6,000 or some crazy number, and it's like, oh, it can't be much longer. It's going to just, and they just printed money and prolonged it a little bit. But we are $15 trillion in debt, folks. You can't pay that back. That's like saying, well, it is saying that I have $200,000 in personal debt myself, not even including my whole family. Yeah, not gonna happen. I'm bankrupt. Can't pay it. There's no way. How on earth can I pay that? Win the lottery? Get some Obama money, maybe? Set up a fake solar company? I'll call it Getting Jiggy With It Solar, and we'll write up some really cool make a money tree. Yeah, we'll grow. Yeah, because it grows on trees. And but seriously, these solutions, these things are all in the Constitution. We have a system. It's in place. I'm often, and I'll close with this, I'm often talking about what I call the Ascent to Power. We've got a deadline coming up, Monday, right? I always wait till the last day, too. Because if I owe, forget them. I'm waiting till the last day to give them my money, and if I don't, well, I don't really care. But it's a deadline for us to file our income tax. Now, I've never seen the law that says I have to pay taxes and that I'm a taxpayer. The actual statute. Have you seen the law? I'm not talking about some publication the IRS put out. I'm talking about the statute, U.S. Code XYZ, that says I'm a taxpayer. Never seen it. Not once. But we all assent that we've seen it. We all assent that they have the power to tax us because all of us, I would probably say, if not most, all, we sign this piece of paper, give away our Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and sign and pay this thing because we don't want guys with guns kicking down our doors and sticking their boot on our neck and taking our kids away from us and doing who knows what to our property. So we file a form that nobody's ever seen a law. So guess what? They do have the authority to tax us because you've assented that they do. You said, yes, I'm a taxpayer. I say, yes, I'm a taxpayer every time I fill that form under duress, but, that's, what are you going to do about that? So we assent of all sorts of laws. We do it, our government at the state level, our legislators assent that the federal government has the power to do a lot of these things in our state. The EPA can come in and shut down our power plants and do all these sorts of things because we said they do by letting them do it. So at some point we have to stop them. If the government is using force against us, at some point, if you're going to come and kick down my door and try and shoot me, I'm going to shoot back. I mean, but by then, it's kind of too late. I mean, what good is that? I'm just another, guy on the news that, they propagandize that makes me a crazy government-hating, whatever. So there are solutions. There are real things we can do. And every one of these things, maybe you can't do all of them, but you can do one or two of these. And it's got to get outside of the keyboard patriotism. You've got to exercise your faith. You've got to get involved in local politics. You've got to really consider what could life be like if everything doesn't, remain wonderful in America. It's just reality. I mean, count the costs when you build something. You figure out if you prepare. So I hope that doesn't bum you out because we do have solutions. If we've got 2 more years, I'm hoping we have 2 more years. If we've got 2 more years, that's 2 more years for my kids to get older, for me to prepare, for us to try and undo what they've done. So get out there and do something with that time that we do have, if we've got it. So thank you very much. Is this for me? Yeah. Thanks, man. I thought I saw that in there.